Okay.
All right.
For cutting your head
Yeah,
off.
so those of you that, there you go. So I'll just try to stay back here so I don't cut my head off. That's about where I need to be. So that's all.
I had people actually in the interview.
So if we could get the Matt to be quiet. So good. What time is it? Is it morning or afternoon?
Oh, good. All right.
It is good afternoon. So let's talk a little bit about chicken salad. So who likes chicken salad? Chicken salad?
I don't want to be in this video.
You do?
Are we on?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like chicken salad.
You like chicken salad? All right. Well, good. I'm glad somebody likes chicken salad.
Big fan.
You like chicken salad? All right.
Why don't you like chicken salad?
I don't think so.
What?
Why don't you like chicken salad?
It's not the mayonnaise. I like mayonnaise, but it's just.
Texture? Is it texture?
I don't know. I don't know what it is. But,
We're the weirdos.
yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things. Well, I mean, the story, I've probably told this before, but I'm such a picky eater that I was probably in college when I had salad. And I didn't eat chicken until I was married. I was 25 years old. So that's weird just in general. So I've come a long way. So I told a story about I was a picky eater, and mom would she was an enabler. Right? So if it was processed or if it was I get a PB&J or something like that. But
Strictly
I
a
had,
chicken tender kid.
well, I don't eat chicken tenders. Yeah. Well, back in the day, you just couldn't get chicken tenders. Anyway, I was on a business trip one time, and a big guy that I was trying to impress, and he was like, "Well, let's go to this Chinese restaurant. I like this Chinese restaurant." And I'm like, "I don't like any of this stuff." So I get there, and I'm like, I can't. The pressure's too much. So I saw beef and broccoli. I can eat both of those. So I was like, that wasn't so bad. So what it was is I didn't. It wasn't that I didn't like it. So anyway, all right. So what's new? What's new in the market? What are you guys seeing?
People waiting for interest rates to drop.
People waiting for interest rates to drop. What are y'all seeing?
People wanting tons of land for a little price. Unrealistic expectations.
Yeah. Okay. Unrealistic expectations. So, what do you got? Anything for me?
Same thing, really.
Same
People
thing?
are just expecting interest to suddenly disappear.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, I had somebody this week. I signed them up for refinance last week, and they were all excited. And they said, "Oh, with all the stuff going on in the world, we're just going to not do anything."
And it's election year. That's like people.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how about lending challenges? You had one. You tried your best to get them to me, and I appreciate that. But
Big box companies.
big box. Why not? Rocket's a big name. Truist's a big name.
Honestly, it took them 37 days to tell us, 3 days before closing, that it wasn't okay. Because they didn't do what it was Zillow.
So actually, Zillow Mortgage.
It was Zillow Mortgage. The guy was great. Like the guy that was the loan processor was very communicative.
Right.
Their underwriting department is just
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen.
She made that look easy, didn't she?
Sorry, you didn't see that, but yeah, it was.
just.
I can listen from mine.
It's just I think we're seeing it in a lot of ways. People just don't want to do their job. Customer service is poor, and I think that when you have all the hands in the basket like that, it's completely necessary to objection handle and make sure it's like, hey, I understand you're doing that, but what was the incentive of these box companies? Like, because we just know, in my experience, this can go out for 6 months or not even happen. So we want to make sure that you're taken care of, and we have these local people that care. You can get them on the phone. I can call them on a weekend. I can do things like that I don't have control over to make sure you get the best experience. And we know that you can buy it because that's the worst feeling ever. We're 30 days into it, 37 days into it, and they tell you that you can't. And now they put the seller in a problematic situation, and you as well.
Right.
And that happens all the time. That's the biggest thing, is just making sure people understand, hey, local's best. We do this all the time. We're the professional and they're professionals that are here to help you.
I tell them, like, look, you use Tim. Not only do I know where his office is, I know where he lives.
Yes.
That's right.
I can harass him in his
That's
house.
right. So that, you know, it's, and I guess those of you that are just getting started, I think that's, I mean, some stuff you gotta learn hard way, right? But it's, you know, some of it is also.
Use everyone's experiences.
Yeah, exactly. I'm impressed. Well, I'm impressed, so you did good. You're a good sport too. That I like the most. So, so Matt's got a lending challenge. What did you say you've got?
I've got a lending challenge.
So he's got one that he's already mentioned to me about somebody that's got a manufactured home that just got turned down, and
Yes.
so you're going to give me the stuff on that so that I can see if I can revive it.
Yes. So that's a fun thing I've never encountered before. So when you're selling a mobile home, the HUD tag and the serial number have to match. Sometimes the serial number is in some sort of plate that's either on the electrical box or in a cupboard or
Under the kitchen sink.
yeah, something weird like that. If you can't find it, a lot of people will buy these things and they'll flip them and they're like, and they'll throw it out. But you can go to IBTS, which is some government thing that can look it up or whatnot, and they're going to give you the serial number. The serial number and the HUD plate have to match to show it's the same. In my case, they do not match. So the current loan officer is looking to deny the loan because they're like, oh, well, it doesn't match. This house has been closed before, and so I'm challenging their knowledge
That's happened to me.
base. And I'm like, hey, well, this has been closed before with a THDA VA loan.
That's a hard
So,
loan.
yeah, like, if it went through this way, it can be done. And they're like throwing their hands up saying you can't. So there's always fun complications that pop up from time to time.
You can usually order one. It takes longer, but
We
that's
ordered one,
what
it
Jessica
doesn't
and
match the
I
HUD
did.
plate.
That's
It wouldn't
the
be on
problem.
the, it wouldn't be on the last purchase?
That would make way too much sense. I've given them, like, it's been detitled, it's called affidavit of fixation, so I did that. I was like, here, it was closed, here's all the information, y'all wanna talk? And essentially they're like, well, no. Can you talk to the other lender? No. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So, it's been real fun, I love working with them.
This is the same one that told him that he couldn't get more than 4% in celebrate closing costs.
Yeah, so that's the thing too. I'm gonna go in a little soapbox here. So you're gonna talk to people that they're told, yes, we're gonna shop for different loan options, which is good. You're not gonna get penalized for shopping for home loans. But we'll go ahead and give it up here.
Because yeah, we want to put you on the. Hey, come in front of the camera.
All
Show-
right, and
show-
now welcome to the stage. So we're gonna have people that your buyers want to make sure that they're gonna get the lowest interest rate. When a buyer wants to buy a home, they go, "Mom and Dad told me I need to get a low interest rate." Because those bankers, you know, they make all their money on this extra interest rate or whatever. That's what they're told. And so you have advertisements that are out that'll say, hey, we can lock in right now a 5.99 rate, right? And they click on that. They go, that's amazing, a 5.99 rate. What they do is they bake in points, and they don't get that. They're like, oh yeah, which is front-loaded, it's prepaid interest into the life of your loan.
You're doing good.
Right, like that?
Yeah.
So,
Next
like,
thing you know, you're gonna be doing mortgage.
yeah, well, don't tempt me, all right? Paul's leaving, right? So you have all that there, but your buyer is going to just, if they click on that, just because it's the lowest number, it's the lowest hanging fruit, then you get into a place where not all lenders are created equal. If it gets too hard, I feel like the majority of them, not this guy, right? The majority of them will throw their hands up and say, can't do it. Doesn't bother them. They're behind a desk. They're not showing the property. They're not running out there. They can just sit there and go, okay, next one. Sorry, we couldn't get it
I
done.
already have a house.
We'll buy another one. Yeah, I got a house. You don't. Sorry.
Yeah.
So that's where it becomes very important to have people that you know, if anything goes sideways. I've been at a closing table where Tim didn't even actually do anything, but these people were confused, and Tim was like, okay, obviously something's upset. How can we make it right? To where your partnership, when you hand off something to someone, you know that they're going to do what they're saying that they're going to do. They have that follow through. Because if he's in Ohio somewhere, or where the frick do they call all the time? Michigan? Is that number?
Rockets in Michigan.
Yeah. You get that Michigan number. Well, everything's great. They hand you off to somebody else. The loan goes sideways. Guess what? That guy disappears. He doesn't respond to the emails, doesn't pick up his phone. You're gone to him. it doesn't matter what your future is, but this guy sees us all the time. So he's going to make sure that the relationships are followed through on, because, you know, he's not here to make a quick buck. This is his business. So the repeat business, the relationship with agents, and doing what they're going to say is super important. So that's my little soapbox.
Amen. Amen. Everybody clap.
Hallelujah.
Well, you know, it's funny. I talked to Lori, who's on my team. She lives in North Carolina, but a friend of hers was buying a place in Maryland, and it was from a builder, and she sent me the fee sheet, and there was huge incentives for them, like $15,000 incentive for them to use them, and she really wanted to use me, and I'm like, well, it's the builder. You're very well qualified. It's the builder. They're going to offer you this. I can't get anywhere close. So I told her what I told her to do is negotiate here, here, and here. And then, you know, I think this is a junk fee. See if they'll take that off. Keep the $15,000. I said, go ahead and close with them, right? And then in 3 or 4 months, when rates drop, we'll just refinance you, right? Because that was best for her. She was like, she was waiting for me to do a big hard sell on her. I'm like, that's the best deal. I mean,
100%.
I mean, I hate to lose a deal to Arrowood and DHI, but maybe if they're not going to give you that concession, then go there, right? But remember that it helped you, and then let's talk in 6 months when rates are better and you need to refinance. So, and I just actually, there's an agent here in town. Her daughter was buying a place in another testimony of not giving up. I think that's the thing. They went to a big builder, MI Homes in near Columbus, and they denied them. And she said, "Can you help them?" And I was like, "Yeah." So they're like easy pre-qual, right? It was just a little bit outside of the box, and so their lender said, "No, that's never going to work." And I'm like, "Okay, it'll work." "Oh, it'll never work. It'll never work." So they wanted to see, when we were halfway through the loan, they wanted to see the approval letter that we gave. So we gave them all the details. And they said, "Oh, I guess we can do that." So we set it up for them, right? Told them, teed it up. And so they said, "Yeah, we can do that all." So it's frustrating that we did all the work, but the good news is the borrower ended up getting, like, again, a $15,000 gift from the builder to close it. And I'm like, you have to take that. I mean, if you were one of my kids, that's the way I look at it. If you're one of my kids, you need to take that deal, right? Now, give me a 5-star review. Give me something.
Tell your friends.
Give me 2 5-star reviews, or 2 of you, and let's talk when rates move down and we'll refinance you. And they're like, "You do that?" I'm like, "Yeah, it just makes sense, right?" You know, anybody that's been, you know, it's like I can't retire on this deal. I can't make enough money on this deal to retire. But if I take really good care of it, then I might be able to do that, right? So, you know, last month, I had a client that I did their 4th loan, right? First one was a little $85,000 thing. They had bad credit. And you know, the one that this was 9 years ago, the one they bought last month was $1.2 million.
Wow,
And
awesome.
yeah, it was like, you know, we stair-stepped through the whole thing, and so it was kind of neat to work with. And it went from a low 600 score and helped them figure out how to do some things to now they're like an 800 credit score and making all kinds of money. So those are kind of fun. So, and other people I might do more than maybe. This will be the 4th one for you guys, won't it?
The 3rd.
3rd?
Yeah.
We did a purchase. We didn't do a refi. We just did 2 purchases.
No, we'll do a refinance rates.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we did
Yeah.
Bristol House, Johnson City House.
Okay, all right, cool. So, and I don't know why I'm talking off on this tangent, but I talked to a guy just yesterday I looked in my CRM and I talked to him 2 years ago, and he was like, I don't want to go that route, but he calls me. Evidently, I spent some time with him, so he called me yesterday. And he was like asking me about investment. He has an investment property that he bought, paid cash for, and they did all the renovations. You know, he bought it for like $25,000. It's worth $185 now after the renovations. He's got it rented, and now he called me out of the blue, wants to do a refi cash out. And I'm like, oh, cool. Just taking care of people. I think that, you know, sometimes I feel like, am I wasting time? Because this, you know, some people, you know, they're never going to buy. It's just like, I don't know what to do. Right? But anyway.
You're like, I love HGTV.
And I was gonna yeah, let's just talk about a little bit about rates. Talk a little bit about rates. So everybody wants to know about rates. So I'm gonna hand these out, but this is just, I'm looking for something that, I was looking for, you know, when it comes to rates, what do you all need to know when you're talking about, when you're talking to clients and stuff? So you have your hands full, so.
Yeah, thank you.
So that, you know, what is going on with, you know, who y'all talking about? Hey, I'm talking over
I'm
here.
talking about cookies.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, how are you doing? Okay.
The girls in black talking about cookies. Good.
It's important
Not
stuff,
good,
Rob,
honey.
Sarah, important.
It's hard to compete with cookies. You know, cookies, babies, puppies, you know, that's, if I can keep the audience,
We're
if
all
I can
your
keep the
cardinal-
audience on me during
your
these
cardinal
things, it's
desires are
amazing,
here.
right? There's too much fun stuff going on. I have a great,
Say, imagine how many cookies you're gonna buy with that rate drop.
I'm telling you. So
Now
many
I'm
good
listening. Well, and
Change from money
Wayne's in
to
the club's not here today.
I know it,
so-
I know it. So, I just saw, speaking of pugs, I just saw where, Alexa got married.
Yeah, that was a beautiful
So,
picture.
yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah, so,
Really.
cool. We're gonna get her back here?
Yeah, she's actually,
They're under contract.
they're buying a house in,
Let's see.
Oh, cool.
so, yeah.
Cool. So, right, so what, the gist of, you know, what affects mortgage rates? So there's a lot of noise out there. So and I've actually distilled it down to the two highlighted areas. Really, in uncertain times, investors buy more treasury bonds, which leads to lower yields and lower mortgage rates. And then in stable times, investors buy fewer bonds, leading to higher yields and mortgage rates. So bad news, this is the thing you need to remember. Bad news is good for interest rates. Good news, economic news, is bad for interest rates. That's the gist. I mean, there's a lot of, we can talk about T-bills, 10-year treasuries, 10-year bonds, all that stuff. But it boils down to when you hear bad news, like last week, so the Fed said they didn't change anything. They're gonna change the expectation is there's gonna be a drop on the Fed rate in September. They didn't make a change. Now, if you look at any of the Fed commentary, there are people that they'll take, this is exactly what they said last time, and this is exactly what they said this time. And there were these words were slightly different, so that means something, right? And because could you imagine Donald Trump being the Fed chairman? It's like everybody's like, oh my goodness, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. But these guys
A lot
are
of bad things happening. A lot of good come of it.
It's like, I don't know what to do with this. And the market's like, oh goodness. So, but they're very measured in what they say. So, but generally speaking, they're responding to what's going on in the market. So bad news, it was Thursday that there was a real drop in mortgage rates. Well, it wasn't a result of the Fed. It was a result of unemployment numbers, right? Unemployment numbers up, bad news, right? So mortgage rates going down. So that's the thing. That's the thing you need to, as you're paying attention to a lot of things. That's really what's going on now. The government does have the thumb on the scale doing certain things that make it a little bit more difficult to predict what's going on.
So if we start seeing stuff like Vanguard and the big hedge funds starting to unload money, going to cash, is it bad news?
I don't know enough to know if that's true. The thing I'm looking at is bad news in terms of, if unemployment numbers drop, okay, that means that, or inflation is dropping, then that's good news. And so mortgage rates are likely going to stay the same or deteriorate, get higher.
Okay.
Right. Now, what happened during COVID was there was a lot of stimulus that the government was pumping in. Right. So it was like they were buying trillions of dollars of mortgage-backed securities and driving. It was just unnatural. So, when you're talking to clients and they're like, "I'm waiting for those threes again," it's like we're going to be waiting a long time, right?
You better start dreaming, dude.
Yeah. So, what the expectation? I mean, So I subscribe to a service that provides what do all the smart people say rates are going to do today? What do the smart people think the rates are going to do tomorrow? And you got these people that pay a lot more than me that are watching this on a daily basis. 60% say it'll be up, 40% say it'll be down. I'm like, that 40% is way smarter than I am, and that 60%, I don't know who to believe, right? So generally speaking, if more people think it's going to get better, you kind of think it's going to get better. But it's really hard to predict. And then, what you don't see is through the day, like we'll have, generally mortgage rates, pricing for mortgages come out around 10 o'clock, right? So we'll get a notice that says, hey, mortgage rates are out. So they're better or they're worse. Well, it is a common thing, especially over the last few weeks, is we'll have pricing adjustments 2 and 3 times during the day. So it may be, oh, their rates have improved. Oh, rates are worsened. Rates have improved. Rates have worsened, right? Government rates have improved, but conventional rates have worsened. It's like, all right, so it's like the stock market, trying to pick a stock, and timing is, it's just, okay, generally we're headed this direction, and now it's time to lock, right? And what I tell clients like you is that, now there are events that happen. Like in this case, if there's a, let me talk about locking for a second. So do you know what I mean when I say lock a rate? Does that even mean anything? Okay, so what happens is, we lock a rate, it means that we can float or we can lock. So like the folks, Logan's, right? They got a 2-month window and there's a lot can happen, probably good stuff, so I'm floating with them, right? Because we don't even know what the product is, quite frankly, yet. So we're floating with them and that's gonna be to their advantage. Now, if you've got somebody under contract, 30-day contract or something like that, you're not gonna see typically not gonna see a huge amount of movement in 30 days. What I tell my clients is that you can choose to float or you can choose to lock. If you float, then if it gets better, then you get the benefit of that. If it gets worse, you get that as well. If you lock it, then it can't go up, but it also means it can't go down. Now, just what I do for everybody is like, if there's a major move, then look at me trying to compete with the babies again. I can't compete with I can do that too. Look at those blue eyes, my goodness. But if there's a major move, then what happens is that if it's locked, I can't just unlock it and let it float. What I end up doing is if it's a major move, the branch will take a hit and I'll try to provide a discount to try to reflect some of that, because I want to keep the business. But it's rare that it moves that quickly, right? That much that quickly. Now, if it's a long lock, if it's a 90-day lock or something, I just don't like to do those. But that would have been the smart thing to do in early 22. When rates were, over 2 months, they moved up 3 points, or something like that. So that's, locking and not locking, but the rates are volatile. We're looking at trends. I'll get an email or a text notification. Here's a alert to lock, right? That means, hey, if you have somebody, go ahead and lock it because the market looks like it's going to change. Now, it's not like, if it's going from 7 to 6, or if it's going from 6 to 7, here's a rate to alert to lock. It's more like, it's going to, the cost for that rate went up by 0.03%, right? So you might save $200 on a big loan, something like that. So it's not that big of a movement, but I am monitoring those things.
Where does the alert come from? Where does the alert come from?
It's a service that I subscribe to.
You subscribe
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. So MBS Highway is one of them that I subscribe to, and like every morning they're doing a market analysis. It's like watching, I don't know what would be something on cable news. It's like they'll do a 15-minute market update. This is what's going on specifically for mortgages. So it's pretty dry. I don't necessarily listen to them all the time, but it was interesting. The one I was listening to this morning was talking about, what happened in Japan and how the interest rate in Japan is, the Fed rate in Japan is 0. And so you can get a mortgage for 2% over there, but you can't in that market. But how does that affect us? Well, I can't borrow on a house. I can't get that money, right? But what people will do, they'll buy a future on the yen. And so what happened when they raised their Fed rate, all these people had calls because they had shorted the yen. And so that caused a lot of people to start selling stuff off because they had to make up the margin. It was a margin call. So I was like, which I don't understand a lot of that stuff, right? But I know enough. It's like, okay, I get it. To where people were betting that it would stay lower or go lower, and it went higher, and then there was a margin call, so they didn't have the cash, so they had to go sell their stocks. They had to sell from somewhere, so that caused the stock prices to go down. It's like, oh my goodness, there's so much interconnected in all this stuff. I'm just a humble little mortgage guy. I know what I do, keep track of the trends the best I can, and then, not be stupid and say, well, it's all gonna be great or it's all gonna be bad. Generally the trend right now is there's gonna be improving rates. I have actually already started reaching out to past clients with, hey, I don't think now's the time to refinance, but it probably will come. So I'm reaching out to them proactively because they're gonna see teaser rates, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can get you a 5.5% rate. Well, that's gonna cost you 3 points right now. Probably don't wanna do that, but if you want to, I can do that, right? And I'll tell you that when I'm jumping around, but when I'm thinking about talking to a client, what I'll generally do is I'll give them 3 prices. I'll give them a rate that costs 0 points, a rate that costs 1 point, and a rate that costs 2 points. And the reason I give them those ranges, I'll say, well, when you're shopping online, you're gonna see these teaser rates. Like if you go to Rocket right now, they have Rocket mortgage rates, and each of the rates that they offer will be between 2 and 2.5 points for that rate. Now, if you want to do that, I do that all day. Their rates are not anything special. It's their marketing is showing paying 2 to 2.5 points. But what I'll do is I'll say, well, if rates are expected to decrease over the next 12 to 18 months, then you've just paid 2 points or 3 points for this rate that in 18 months is going to be, you're going to refinance probably, then you've just spent that 2 points. If you're buying a $400,000 loan, you just spent $8,000 to buy this rate down, and now you're going to refinance in 12 months, and you've just lost that $8,000 because you're prepaying the interest is what you're doing.
Yes.
Buying a better rate. So I say, it doesn't matter to me. I make the same amount whichever rate you pick. It's a matter of what's best for you. And I really think, like talking to Matt, I think right now the best thing to do is just go with a no point situation, and then let's watch it over the next 12 to 24 months, and then we'll do a refinance, and then spend that money then.
Yes.
And so that just makes a lot of sense. But if somebody says, I gotta have the best rate, okay, how about 3%? Right? I can say on my rate sheet I can probably get you in the 4s, but do you want to spend $35,000 to buy that down? And quite frankly, I probably couldn't do that because there's a law, by law you can only charge so many, even if the customer wanted to, that you can't buy it down so far. But
You can't prepay, you can only prepay a certain amount.
that's the cost for the rate can only be a certain percentage, and if it's over that percentage, then there's a TERQM fail. Anyway, it just says you can't do that. It's too expensive. You can't charge the borrower that much, even if they want it. So I don't know if this helps, but it's the idea is a summary there. But I think it boils down to those things. If it's bad news in the economy, is good news for interest rates. Good news in the economy is bad news for interest rates. As long as the government doesn't have their thumb on the scale, saying COVID was obviously bad news for the markets, right? So rates went the other way, right? So people were fleeing stocks and bonds and going to more safe things. So, I don't know, is that helpful? A little bit. So, anything else?
Going to be over the next few months.
What's that?
What do you think the trend's going to be?
Oh, my crystal ball's in the truck. Let me get it. I would say, September there's supposed to be there's an expectation of a 1/4 point reduction from the Fed. It could, depending on what happens between now and then, it could, all the indications say that there is going to be that. So there isn't a direct correlation. That's one of the things you got to get out of your head. There's not a direct correlation. The Fed dropped the rates 1/4 point, so that means that mortgage rates dropped 1/4 point. It's an indirect correlation, right? So what is it? Paul taught me in one of his classes, econ classes. Correlation does not mean causation. Does that make sense? So just because they correlate, like cheeseburger prices versus, you can put all kinds of charts over top of each other that have they don't connect at all. Yeah. There's a connection, but not a direct connection. But the expectation is rates are going to continue to improve over the next, especially in September, and then over the next 6 months. There's a hope that we're going to be in the low 6s. In some cases we're doing some of that now if you're going to buy some stuff down, but high 5s and low 6s. And so I think what I've seen and everything I've read is that when people see a 5 in the front, then they're going to relax a little bit, right? There's a lot of pent up demand. A lot of people are used to seeing 7 at the front, and then they see 6, and then they see 5, even if it's 5.999999. And it used to be, it's funny, psychology, there used to be on a rate sheet, there was only like 5.875, 6, and then 6.875, because it comes in 1/8 of a point increments. But because of psychology, now all the rate sheets have a 4.99, 5.99. It's yeah, the 0.99. It's the reason gasoline is always, 0.99 at the end. So it's always, but I don't know what to think. The big picture for me is I do expect they're going to move down. I think the repercussions for that are going to be that when it does hit a point, then you're going to have a rush of buyers. Well, hopefully you're going to have sellers too, because the sellers they got golden handcuffs on, right? If I'm sitting on a 3% rate, I can't buy the same house I live in, and my payment's going to be quite a bit more just because. But the closer we get to that, what they have, if they had a 3.5% rate or 2, whatever, then they're at the point where the sellers there's going to be more sellers let their house, go ahead.
They're willing to trade up from a 2 to 3% to a 5% rather than let go with 3 to go to 7.
So I think you're going to see some improvement in inventory. But then you're also going to see people coming in that, now it's time I can buy more.
It's not going to be enough inventory.
What's that? Yeah, there's not going to be enough inventory. So, the selling point that I like to say is like, if you can always refinance it, but if you're not careful, yes, you saved. Let's say that the rate's from 7 to 6, and let's say on that house you're going to save $150 a month. Well, let's make it $200 a month. Make my math easy in my head. So that's $2,400 over the course of 1 year, right? When you want to save $2,400, so I'm just going to wait. Well, that same house you were looking at now has gone up. Instead of it went up $10,000 in that 12 months. So you really would have saved. If you wait to buy it, you're going to end up paying more because you're going to pay less in interest, but you're going to pay more for the place. Yeah. So but getting people to get their mind around that, and some of them just can't afford it, and that's some of the problems. I would love to buy that. I'm qualified for $150. It's the worst price point to be qualified for right now. So, good news and bad news. You're qualified, but
there's a home
and then I feel bad for Paige, because now Paige has to find that $150,000 place that will go FHA, right? Yeah. Sorry to do that to you. If you'd rather me just say you're not qualified, then I could do that. But maybe you'll find something. But you just keep pushing them farther out, or push them to Lynn Garden or something like that. So I don't know if that answered your question. I feel like politicians dance around the answer, but I mean, who knows?
I'm interested. I'm listening.
Yeah. So hopefully, if anybody tells you they know what it's going to do, they do.
But so, do you feel that the interest rates are going to tick down because it's an election year? That's what that's my thought process.
I'm not. I don't. This is just my raw thinking. If it wasn't an election year, they might move down quicker, because the
Whoever wins.
I said that now. I don't know if I believe that. There's political pressure on the Fed, and I don't pretend to understand all that political pressure. But if you would think that the political pressure would cause them to produce it, so that there would be, look, things are turning around. But all that's jacked up. I don't know what's going on. So I'm just looking at the I don't think I think it's more affected by just simply what the Fed's going to do, and I think that the market is seeing they're telegraphing what they're going to do, and I think that's going to be the biggest impact. Now, if it comes out in next month and unemployment is way down and all those different things, then it's the bets are off. So they're just, the Fed's trying to manipulate the unemployment and inflation, all those different things. I don't there's a whole conversation about the Fed. Should there be a Fed? You know, but
Sorry.
you know, but generally, I'm just looking that there's going to be an improvement. I think it's going to be a slow improvement over the next 12 months, is what I think. So,
Thank you.
I feel like I need to give you a real. That's the real answer. I don't know. So, anything else? Any other questions? Loan questions?
I had something really weird happen to me a few months ago, and I don't know if I've brought it up yet.
Uh-oh.
I had a buyer who wanted to go FHA, and she wasn't able to because of the type of job that she had. I don't remember what the company was, but it was some kind of like CBD company. And due to that, she wasn't able to get FHA, and I'd never heard of that. And when I brought it up to Joey, who was our broker at that time, he had never heard of that either.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you kind of summarized what she said.
Oh yeah. So she had Paige had a client that worked for a CBD related company.
She could get a conventional just fine, but she could not get the FHA.
She could, and
Yeah.
the borrower couldn't get an FHA loan, but they could get a conventional loan.
I hear commercial, like they won't touch the CBD company.
So she must have been an owner, or somehow had
She was
ownership.
like a higher up, I think, but I don't think she was an owner of it.
Because
or
you know, when
anything.
I can't imagine that if you're a W-2 employee and I just punch a clock and I get a W-2 and I get a paycheck, there's nothing in our system that I'm aware of that flags that, oh, you work for a company that does this.
Yeah.
That's
That's
on
what I
a
was
list.
thinking, like, is that even common? Has anybody else ever even
Now,
had
I mean,
that
there's a
happen?
lot of, I haven't run into it, I haven't had the need to do the research, but there's a lot of, like some of the non-QM stuff that we do, it's like, hey, we will do, you know, if somebody's self-employed and they're doing, you know, marijuana-based stuff, then we can do this or do that. I just haven't run into that.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just that field or if it's like multiple fields.
I know there's a few. As far as on the commercial side, if you wanted like an SBA loan, and that's government backed,
Yeah.
and it was anything that was CBD, since it's so weirdly regulated, because like what, Virginia,
makes
you can't sell weed, but you can give a sticker. You can
Yeah.
sell a sticker, and it comes with complimentary weed. In Tennessee, you can't do that because if it has any level of THC, I can't get it. But then just right across the border, you can. Then you go to Denver, it's a free for all. You know what I'm saying? So
Well, then you
Then
got
it's
on the
the
state
government.
level, they said, but on a federal level, it's
Yeah.
still
Illegal.
illegal. It's like,
Yeah.
my goodness.
And so they're weird there. So I've heard of people that were trying to sell like a business and like they can't lend on it. It has to be cash if somebody's buying it.
Yeah.
So I think it's just because it's like we're saying there's state
It's
law,
so
there's a federal
unregulated,
thing. It's
really.
such a weird,
That makes sense.
it's such a weird thing because the state or somebody could say, well, we can't do this anymore, and then that shop is not
Yeah.
allowed to sell anymore, and now
Yeah.
their investment is dead.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I could see if there's an ownership, I think that would be where the key would be, if there's any ownership, because ownership is gonna be, well, FHA, all the government-backed stuff are gonna have that federal level guidelines, right? The conventional, not so much, but I can't imagine anybody that just, I'm a worker bee, I go into the plant and I make
Yeah.
gummies all day, right? I don't,
I feel like it's
It's a
because
little
it's
stamper.
oh, pour them into there,
It's so-
pour them into there, pour them into
you
there.
don't know where that industry's gonna go, so it's not really something they can guarantee you're gonna have that income anyways. Because if it gets regulated and then you don't have a job anymore,
You got two different levels of it too. You also have medicinal, which is legal in a lot of states, including Florida. And then
Right.
you have the other side of the coin. And then on top of it, CBD is 0.03 or under, which makes it hemp technically, so it's not illegal.
Yep.
But it depends on the state.
well, Delta 9 also has THC in it, but it's not THC until you smoke it, so they're not actually selling you anything that,
Yeah,
a whole bunch of stuff.
And I haven't paid it
We're
much
learning a
attention.
lot about you.
But I'm driving down the road and I see this flag that, you know, the guy that the guy that does this, you know,
Stop doing
and it's, you know, the usually see outside of the
wavy arm.
yeah, the wavy arm guys, right? You know, and I'm like, it says marijuana up the side of it. I'm like, so what are they selling there, right? Because I don't know, it's either false advertising or they're
Oh, that
selling.
is on the way to your work, huh?
Yeah. I'm like,
0.03.
It's just a Mexican shop. That's her name. She's make wine.
so anyway, yeah, it's just the Spanish version of Mary Jane.
I'll delete this from the internet.
Oh,
Bye, internet. Thank you, Tim.
yeah.
You have any questions or anything like that? This man's a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.